It is Tuesday. I'm back. Guess what time it is? 7 p.m. And I hope you guys are ready for tonight. Get yourself together. Send this out to somebody you think might need to hear it or just want to hear something good. And we're going to get into it, y'all, because I got a few things to cover before we actually get into the testimony. And I will be sharing another one of my testimonies tonight. I know that I told you all in the beginning that it would be myself along with some other guests. And when I say guests, we've had several guests come on and their testimonies have been phenomenal. So again, y'all get y'all stuff, and I already have my it's just lime water. It's hot water with lime squeeze in here. It does me just right. Don't really need the tea. Well, the green tea would be good, but I don't want no tea, okay? So I have hot water and lime. That's what's going on in my cup. I ate my snacks while I was waiting to come up here, so don't have any of those, but that's okay. Let's get into it. All right. So for those that may not know who I am, those that are catching the replay and coming across my channel for the very first time, hi, how are you? My name is Artoria Hammonds. I go by Tori. You will see that at the bottom of your screen, and I actually prefer to be called Tori. All right, let's see that. But anyway, seriously, guys, this channel is dedicated at this time for testimonies, for good testimonies. These testimonies help to bring encouragement to those that are listening, to those that may come across this channel at another time, or this video in particular at another time, just to uplift one another, just to remind you all that even in the midst of everything that may be going on around us in the world, even in the midst of everything that's going on in our lives directly, that God is still doing good things. He is still performing miracles. He is still answering prayers. Can I get an amen? Amen. He is still doing good things, guys, in the midst. And myself, along with some of the guests I've already had and some of the guests that are still to come, we are going to constantly remind you all of his possibilities, y'all. Okay? He's doing it for us, or he has done it for us for some of these stories that we're referring to, and we know that he can do it for you. So we just want to uplift you. We want to encourage you. We want to build you up. We don't want to fill you up with a bunch of stories and then you leave here and you're still discouraged. But we want to build you up and help ignite or reignite or add a little bit of flame to that light, that bit of hope that you have, okay? So, like I said, there was a few things that I want to cover before we get into my testimony. First, I would like to say we have already made it within a month. We hit our 1 month mark is what I'm trying to say. And we have done great. We have new subscribers. So I'd like to thank those that have decided to come on board to continue hearing these testimonies and sharing them with the people that you love and you care about. I definitely appreciate that. Thank you for the comments. I'm always looking in the comments, trying to make sure I reply to everybody that's in there just to have some engagement. And as you are coming in, I don't think I said this before, but let me know where you're tuning in from. I would love to give you a shout out, okay? And I'll be in the comments, like I said. Maybe not during the live. I can't today because I'm the one giving the testimony, but definitely afterwards, I'll go back and check out the comments. If you have any questions, any suggestions, any concerns, feel free to put them in the comment section because I'm checking. Okay? I'm checking. All right, so we are a month in. That's one. And then another thing I wanted to cover was, I know, guys, I know, I have eyes and I have ears just like you all do. And I am aware that some of the videos that I've done with the guests may have not have been the most clear, or the sound wasn't exactly the best. Now I'm going to tell you, in the beginning, or not really in the beginning, but with one in particular, I had took it off because a couple of people was like, oh, I can't, the sound. And I was like, tag, I'm with y'all. You know, I play it back. I play all of these videos back. And so I hear and I see what you all do as well. But one thing that some of the things that I started to think, I was like, everybody has a beginning. Like, this is the beginning of this great thing, the beginning of a good thing. And you know, when you get on later on down the road and you continue to add to kind of perfect and shape and mold this thing how you want it to be, whatever it is, this can apply to anything that you're working on. It's always good to be able to go back and see how far you've come along the way. Okay. So I decided not to, you know, I decided the ones that I had, you know, taken away from you all to be able to view because of some of those technical issues, I decided to put them back out there. Yes, they still have, you know, imperfections to them, so to speak. But guess what? We can't let that distract us. And that's what came to mind. Like, we can't let that be a distraction. I want for those that really, really, really need to hear those testimonies, I want them to still be able to hear what it is that these people had to say. I have no idea who's going to come across this channel, who needs to hear those stories, and how dare me. God gave me this task and I take it down. Yes, I'm going to do my very best. Like I said, I don't take it lightly. So I'm going to be doing things on my end to make it better, like finding, you know, maybe another stream service, finding better equipment along the way as we progress. But I don't want to take away what we already have, because our foundation, what we're starting off with, honey, this is good. Okay, if I can say so myself. And it hasn't just been me giving my testimony. So I'm not even just talking about mine. I'm just saying in general, it has been great, guys. It has been wonderful, everything that we've heard. And it was an honor to me to have the guests up here to speak. So I would, like, I don't want to do that. I don't want to take away, you know, their video or make it where people can't see it anymore because of some distractions. And to be in life, we have distractions. Okay, we've been in places where I'm sure distractions have been all around us, but for whatever it was you were there for, if it was that important to you, I'm almost 100% sure you did what you had to do to make sure you got that information. And that's what I want you to do when it comes to these videos. So for those that can't, you know, it's just unbearable for you to make it through and listen to it. I understand. Like I said, I listened to it myself and I saw it and I have ears, so I heard it as well. But for those that really need that information, I encourage you to listen to those videos and be blessed. All right. So that's what I wanted to say about that. And what I've also done on my end, like I said, I'm going to be adding as we go along to some things, technical things to help this along the way. But one thing that I decided to do was, if you all ever notice, whenever I have the guests up here, I always do a recap at some moment throughout us being live. I do a recap. And so I've gone to each video and I've put in the comment section, or the description box, excuse me, I've put in there the start time for my recap. So if you cannot quite understand what is being said, you can go to the description box now. You can click on the timestamp that I have put in there, and you can hear where my recap starts. If that can, you know, if that's going to help you better understand what was being said in the video, so there's no confusion or anything like that. Okay, so that's my little, you know, 1-2 that I did for you all as we move along with these good testimonies. So that brings us into my testimony that I'm going to be sharing tonight. I feel like I've given this one, of course, not here on Instagram, like some time ago. So if you happen to be listening tonight or tuning in a little bit later, catching a replay, and you've heard it before, okay, that's great. I feel like you can always take some more nuggets from it, or you could just share it with somebody that might need to hear it. So the topic is fear. So I'm going to be sharing my testimony on how I shut fear down. Okay, how I'm going to get into it. Like, I'm going to just listen. Want to hear a story? Here it go. Okay, so fear. What is fear? For those that are familiar with the passage in the Bible, we know that the Bible says that fear is a spirit. I don't know if you all actually really think about that or take that in, but it's not just something by happenstance. It's not something that you just go pick up. It's like fear. It's an actual spirit. And God's word says that he has not given us the spirit of fear, but of love, power, and a sound mind. Okay? So, how does fear enter? How does this spirit enter, or how did it enter toward? Okay. All right. So there's numerous ways, of course, that fear can enter us. But of course, I'm sharing my testimony. So I will give some specifics how fear entered me. So this particular time was a very critical time in my life. And this fear came about from someone close to me taking ill. They were extremely ill, terminally ill, as the doctor would call it. And that was the moment that I realized fear had entered in. Now, I didn't recognize it in the very beginning. I just felt like my body had naturally reacted to hearing bad news. How many of you all can relate to that? You hear something really bad and you're like, oh my gosh, or either you start sweating, your heart start beating fast, you start crying, whatever your emotional state is or your response is to whatever the news is that you hear. Okay, that's how you reacted. And if we're not careful, like I wasn't, fear, that was the doorway, that was the entry for fear to come in. Fear has to have an entryway. The spirit has to have an entryway. And unfortunately, I gave it a doorway. And that was because when I heard the news of the loved one being terminally ill, all of these bad thoughts started to come to my mind, right? And when I say bad thoughts, I mean just the worst of the worst. Pretty much, they're going to die. Like my body reacted to it. I was going through some things where I had to go to the doctor because of it. And from there, I just let it consume my mind often. Now, those around me may not have necessarily knew that it was consuming me to that capacity, but it really was. And so what ended up happening, because I didn't get rid of that fear, it became a seed. Like it was a seed planted, rooted, right? Like deeply rooted. And what happens when you plant a seed? Well, eventually it produces seed. And what are some of the seeds of fear? Some of the seeds of fear for me looked like anxiety. It looked like having panic attacks. And some other things that didn't necessarily happen was phobias. Sometimes you can develop phobias of different things because you have allowed fear to come inside. And then, of course, another one would be depression. And then also, if you really let it come in, if it gets to a certain point, it can put you in a state of isolation. Okay. Now we know sometimes it is good to be by yourself, collect your thoughts, do whatever you need to do. But the type of isolation I'm talking about is because you are literally scared. You are literally fearful of whatever it is that has you, have you pretty much in bondage, or whatever it is that has you afraid to go out, whatever it is that you're afraid to hear, whatever it is you're afraid to see, it has gotten you to the point where you don't want to be involved with anyone, or you don't want to be involved with going out anywhere. Just certain things take place when you're in isolation. You're like in this solemn state by yourself, but it does not mean those thoughts are going away. All right. So it had gotten to the point for me, like I said, I touched on having anxiety and panic attacks. So what did a panic attack look like for me? Okay. Well, a panic attack for me looked like, and I have absolutely no idea why, but mine tend to come on while I was driving. Now you're talking about somebody, one, no, I don't like to drive. However, I was fine with driving. Never had really an issue with, driving at all or anything like that. In the sense of being afraid of driving. No, I didn't. So I found myself having these panic attacks while I'm in the midst of driving. And anybody that's ever had a panic attack can tell you how debilitating it can be. Whatever you're doing, it's gonna slow you down, it's gonna stop you, it's gonna make you have to, well, in my case, I found myself having to pull over. I found myself having to find a safe space where I could go because I didn't have the mental capacity and I didn't have the physical capacity to continue driving, which now sounds crazy or may sound a bit odd to people that may not have experienced, having panic attacks, but that's what it was like for me. And it was no fun, guys. I know one incident in particular, I pulled over. I think I went to the gas station. I know I went to the gas station. When I say your girl was at that gas station for about a good hour, sitting at the gas pump, not getting no gas. I didn't need any gas. But I'm just sitting there because I'm trying to get my body to calm down. I'm trying to alter my thoughts to get it from this point that had me, thinking these bad thoughts, that has me in the state of being paralyzed or debilitated from driving, to calming myself down where I can continue on to make it home. I don't know if any of you that are listening right now live have ever experienced panic attacks or anxiety just alone. It may have been from something else, but you know that it's not fun. It doesn't feel good. It drains you. It takes a lot of energy out of you. And it can be, kind of scary, especially if you've never really experienced it, or if it's like your first time or in the beginning before you realize what's actually taking place and happening to your body. It can definitely be a bit scary. However, I didn't come here to tell y'all just only what happened, how those things happened to me. But of course, I'm here to give you all the solution as to what helped me overcome it. So what did Tori do? I gave it back. I gave it back. I gave fear back because that was the root. Like I said, the root is fear, which produces seeds and produce other things: anxiety, depression, isolation, panic attacks. I gave the root back. So you may be asking, for those that may be still going through this or just started going through anxiety, depression, or any of those things, or have fear at all, you may be wondering, okay, well, Tora, what do you mean when you say give it back? First, I had to pinpoint where it started. All right. I know it started, like I said, with my loved one being ill. That's how it started. That's how it got in. So I had to go back to that moment. And once I went back to that moment, I had to acknowledge that fear had taken over, that I had given it a doorway, that I had given it an entryway into my life. And I had to renounce the fear that I allowed to come in. Renounce it. Like reverse it. Take it back. I don't want it. I don't want any parts of it. You have to denounce the fear as well. It will no longer be a part of me. I'm giving you the steps. Go back to the moment where you first realized it started to fear came in and it started to alter your life in any type of way. If you can go back and pinpoint that moment, because it's important to do so. And if you can't think of where it started, Pray and ask God to help you think about where it may have started. But most of the time, we know when it started. Go back to that moment, renounce the fear, denounce the fear. The fruit that was produced from the seed: anxiety, depression, isolation, panic attacks. You can renounce those things as well, denounce those things as well. Here, you're separating yourself from these things that are not of God, that He doesn't give you. So we know if He's not giving it to you, we already know where it comes from. So you go back, you renounce, you denounce, you detach yourself from these things that do not belong to you. And then you cast it. I cast it. I mean, you can renounce and denounce it and be done if you want to, but I send it back where it came from, which is not a person. I send it back to the pits of hell in which it was sent. I want all residue gone. I don't want it to come back. I don't want any residue on me that even shows that I may have had any type of fear, any type of anxiety, any type of panic attacks, any of those things, whatever your stuff is. We want no residue left on us at all. And so we cast it back where it came from, which is the pits of hell, because it doesn't come from God. And so for those that may be asking, pardon me, well, what if I've tried that tour and it seemed like it's not working? But it is working. If you follow those steps, I can assure you that it is working. Here is the thing that I have come to learn. And how do I know? Because I was there and I questioned it before. I was like, well, hold on. Because I had a time where it seemed like it was trying to come back. It was like, wait a minute. Like, I know I'm not giving it no, like, what's happening here? This is gone. Like, this is a violation. I got rid of this. And so what I've come to learn is the enemy is still going to try. That's his job. He's still going to try. And because he think he's slick, he's going to make you, or try to make you, convince you that, oh, your prayer didn't work. You still got it. You can already have one now. You can already have a panic attack now. You still got anxiety. You starting to feel depressed now. But guess what? That's what he needs. That's the trickery. He needs to trick you into believing that it didn't work, so that once you say out of your mouth, or your thoughts within your heart too, because you may not actually verbally say it, but we know that our thoughts are also in our heart too. So once you start to think here and here, and then sometimes people say it, oh, it didn't go away. Man, I thought it was gone, because there had been some time in between. That's all it needs to get to slide right on back in, is your disbelief that it never went away. And then you're starting from scratch, honey. You're starting over. You don't want to do that. Anybody that's ever gone through any of those things, depression, anxiety, isolation, not bad isolation, but the isolation is not good. Okay? Panic attacks. None of that is fun. Who wants to go through that? So when you feel like it's coming back, per se, or when you feel like, I know I prayed about it, it's been some time, but I'm really, you feel it, or it seems like it's starting to creep up. No, I got rid of this. This isn't mine anymore. No parts over here whatsoever. And so other than that, guys, like, that's pretty much what happened. Now, how long did it take? All right. Well, it wasn't a couple of days, I can tell you that. It was more like, and I'm telling you this just being upfront, it was probably like a couple of years, actually. Why? Because I didn't have the wisdom, I didn't have the knowledge to know, like, one, to realize what had really taken place and why I was starting to feel the way I was feeling and what was taking place and why it was taking place. I almost thought it was natural, even though you know it's not natural, but it's like, okay, well, yeah, they passed away. So, this way and that way, and this is when it started. And you can pinpoint when it started, or I can pinpoint when it started. But that's not natural, y'all. That is not natural. If you see that your body is reacting to something traumatic that has happened to you, whether it be in thought, mentally, or emotionally, or physically becoming debilitating, that's not natural. And so, like I said, it took me some time. I'm praying that if you're listening, you're tuning into this, that it will not take you a couple of years to come into knowing, like, hey, this is not normal, and that it's something that I need to take care of, and that it is, it's more than what we perceive. Like, it's more than in the natural, but that it's also something spiritual that you need to take care of. I started off telling y'all, when it comes to fear, what is fear? If you're a believer in God's word, then you know that fear is a spirit, like I said. So you can go to the doctor, but the doctor in the natural can't give you something for what you're experiencing in the spirit, if that makes sense. So you go to the source, you go to God. All right, Lord, I need you to help me with this. Ask him for wisdom. Ask him, what do you do? And that's how I was able to make it through, or overcome it, really. I came into wisdom, which is the main thing. I came into wisdom, I came into knowledge, I came into better understanding. And then for those that are wondering, well, how did you do that? I started reading the word more. I started doing what the word said. And then, of course, some teachers that I came across as well. And I put to work what the word says. I use the power that God has given me as his child, as his heir, as his daughter. I use the authority. You have the same power, the same authority to do the same thing, to make the same proclamations, to renounce whatever it is that isn't of God that's in your life, to denounce whatever it is, and to send it back. I didn't say send it back to a person, but to send the spirit back, to send the sickness back, to send the illness back to the pits of hell in which it was sent, and that's to the abyss, to hell. My name is Victoria Thomas. Go by Tori. And that's my testimony on how I overcame fear, the root of fear, and some of the fruit that had produced from the fear that was planted. If you know anybody that's experiencing fear in any type of way, fear is contagious as well, y'all. I was thinking about that thing too. Fear is definitely contagious. Don't believe me? Do a recap of 2019 and what took place. Fear is more contagious than a virus itself, I believe. You know, another way I know fear is contagious? Y'all ever been somewhere or watched a video where you have a large group of people somewhere and a few people start running and then everybody start running, but they don't know why they running? They just saw everybody else running and they took off running too, and they got scared just because somebody else was running. I'm not talking about people that actually heard something or saw something. I'm talking about being in a setting where you are running, like you're running for your life because you see other people running, but you have no idea why you're running. Fear is contagious as well. Anybody that's going through it, I want you to be encouraged. I want to remind you that it is not the end, that you no longer have to try to live with anxiety. You don't have to try to live with having panic attacks. That's no way to live. Well, not for me, child. You don't have to live being depressed. You don't have to live in isolation. You don't have to live with fear. It's not yours to bear. It's not yours to have. It's not yours to keep. I don't know anybody that would want to keep it. You don't have to live with phobias. But that you can give it back where it came from. Truly give it back. When you give it back, believe it. Believe that it's God. And if it ever tries to peep its head again, don't give it no doorway. Don't give it no entryway. Don't give it no doorway. Say, no, I got rid of this thing. I handled this thing. And it shouldn't be here. And watch it leave. Don't give it another doorway to come back in and to trick you. All right. That's all I have for y'all tonight. I pray that you have been blessed. I pray that this has helped someone. I told y'all in the beginning that it's not always going to be about money. Okay? It's not going to be about money all the time. It's not going to be about things. But what about a peace of mind? What about sanity? What about health? Mentally and physically? What about being set free? Because fear is a bondage to me. Anytime it can control you to the point it's controlling your body and how your body reacts and putting you in jeopardy and your safety is on the line. You driving and then all of a sudden you can't drive no more in the middle of driving, but you can't drive no more because a panic attack has taken over your body. That's not good. That's not, come on now. That's not the life that God intended us to have. And like I said, you don't have to continue to stay there. Don't think you're the only one, because I just told you my story. But also don't think that you have to stay there, because you don't. I just told you my story, how I overcame it. Use this. Use your mouth. One of the most powerful weapons ever. Don't let nobody tell you different. You know, they used to say that thing, the little rhyme, you know, sticks and stones, and words don't hurt. Words do a lot. It can do a lot. If people really knew the depth of words, how they can curse someone, how they can cause certain things to happen. I'm talking about in the negative sense now. But the same way they can be used for negative, you can use your words for good. You can use it in power. You can use it in authority. You can use it to declare and proclaim great and good things. You can use your words to proclaim your healing. To a better life. If it's not you that's watching or that has come across this video that's experiencing that, but you know somebody that may be, I encourage you to send this video to them so that they can be blessed or find some type of encouragement, some solution to what they're going through. And then y'all, come back next Tuesday. We'll have a guest on. I can't wait to hear what the testimony is going to be. I'll be sending out, I'll be creating and sending out a flyer of who the guest is. But like I said, I never know what the testimony is going to be until they actually get up here, guys. And I hear it for the first time along with you. Like I said, once they start talking, if it happens to be something that I already knew, then okay, I already knew. But prior to coming onto the show, I don't ask them to share with me what it is. And I always want them to share what they're led to share. I don't want them to feel like, they have to share anything in particular or something that they might not want to share. So that always, makes it better as well. So I thank you all for your time. I pray that your week is going great so far. I pray that it will continue to go great. And I will see you guys back here next Tuesday, 7 p.m. That's Eastern Standard Time, my time. All right. Until then, as always, be blessed and be encouraged.